Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar this morning. I will go ahead and get started. My name is Brittany. I am the Cloud Marketing Analyst with Batak Solutions. Joining us today, we have Michael Pisarek. He is the co-founder of Dynamic Owl and is a Microsoft SharePoint MVP. And that is an award that is given to experts in the Microsoft SharePoint community for sharing their passion, technical expertise, and real-world knowledge. His passion is ensuring that SharePoint is seen primarily as a business platform so that organizations can take full advantage of the many capabilities that it offers. Michael is acknowledged as a thought leader in the SharePoint space. He is a frequent speaker at many international events and has been referenced in publications and presentations by organizations such as Gartner and Step 2. And from Batak, we have Thomas Young joining us. Thomas is a manager of project management services here at Batak. He has over 20 years of industry experience, 13 years of experience at Batak. He is also a SharePoint thought leader and is regarded as our resident expert in the field. So thank you very much for joining us. We are very excited to have both Michael and Thomas here. And with that, I will go ahead and hand it off to Michael and get started.
We have essentially done probably over 80 intranet projects in the last 3 years. And what we're finding with intranet and digital workplace solutions is that there's common challenges and objectives that all organizations face. And when you look at an intranet project, an intranet is far more than just an install of a piece of software. And what we see with Bonsai when we engage with our clients is we try to understand their business needs. We try to really understand what's going to be valuable to them from an intranet perspective, and then use the capabilities that we have in the product to create this really rich, beautiful solution, which Thomas is going to show you guys just after my few slides. But what we've also found is that there's a lot of commonalities. Whether we work with really large organizations, whether we work with really small organizations, the challenges and objectives are really, really similar. So from an objectives and goals perspective, these are the typical things that we are seeing all organizations face when they're deploying an intranet or a digital workplace. And this is really also in line with a lot of the trends and the research that are coming out there, that your intranet shouldn't just be a place where you go for news, but it should provide a range of capabilities and really an entry point into the digital workplace. So common objectives and goals that we see are enhancing collaboration within the organization, providing a single entry point into all enterprise systems. Now, for a lot of companies, the dream is to have all your enterprise systems integrated together, but we know that's really expensive and really costly and quite complex. But that intranet can really serve a purpose where maybe you have at least access to all of those other enterprise systems that you have. It becomes a launching pad into the rest of your digital workplace. Obviously, corporate communications and employee engagement is really key. And over the last couple of years, we've seen this move away from, static news and events to a much more engaging type of experience for your employees. Now, whether that's still having a more formalized kind of corporate communications model by having the ability to create news and events and stories about employees, but also we're also finding that having the ability for your employees to engage with the organization in a much richer and easier organic fashion through things like comments, liking, sharing, maybe the ability for them to suggest ideas anonymously through an innovation center. This is something that really provides incredible value. And as we say here at Bonsai, the intranet shouldn't be just a place where you go. It should be a place where you do. So ultimately, you want that intranet to help employees or help your users become more productive, regardless of where they are. And that ability for your intranet, not just to be a news portal, but for the ability to people to find documents, tools, tasks, people, policy, procedures, maybe start workflows or view reports. All of those items are becoming increasingly important. And obviously, the other thing we're seeing for a lot of organizations is if you've been through the pain of doing a custom SharePoint implementation project, no one really wants to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on creating SharePoint solutions again. And particularly if you're looking at Office 365. If you're doing a custom engagement with an organization and you're building custom code on Office 365 from Microsoft, Well, Microsoft changes Office 365 quite often. So what we do here at Bonsai is we offer an intranet as a service model that as we develop new features, as we develop new capabilities, and also if Microsoft changes anything and breaks things, that's all part of our service. We'll make sure that you're up and running. We'll make sure that everything is working nicely, and also creating new features and new capabilities going forward. Now, in terms of the goals and objectives, most organizations are facing similar challenges. And I'm sure that for people on the call, some of these are probably resonating with you. The first thing is user experience. If you're looking at SharePoint, out of the box, the user experience isn't particularly great. Now, it's definitely getting better on Office 365 in terms of things like communication sites and Teams. But once again, there's still things that are lacking there out of the box. Other common challenges, information silos, so people or organizations keeping content that might be duplicated, that might be content that's stored in a very departmental kind of basis, which makes it difficult to find content, and even lack of version control in some organizations can be really, really difficult. Another common thing, so search and findability is a huge issue. I'm sure if we did a poll here and asked people if they thought their intranet search experience was great, most people would say it's pretty terrible. And that really is, once again, there's ways around that. It does require work. It does require some planning around the search engine and metadata and taxonomy. But these are all the kind of common challenges that we find. So what we've tried to do is build a set of solutions, a set of capabilities, which are ultimately really, really flexible, which addresses both the opportunities that you might take care of, that you might want to enhance, and also the challenges that you may have. And one of the ways we do that is obviously through the product, which is fantastic. But the other thing that we're finding is successful intranets, particularly successful intranets long term, is a combination of the technology that you have and a combination of two other things. So a combination of the people that you have involved in your actual project and the processes around this also. So what we've done here at Bonsai is in the same way that we've productized our product, if you can call it that, where we have all of these kind of intranet pieces that you can put together really quickly. We've tried to do that with what we call our Bonsai delivery framework. And the Bonsai delivery framework is really a best practices based approach to delivering intranet solutions. And like I said, we've done probably 80 in the last 3 years, everything from customers which are 100 people to we're about to launch an intranet for close to 175,000 people for one of the largest department stores within the US. And we have this delivery timeline because what we've found is organizations need to go through this process. We can't just install an intranet for you and expect it to work. That doesn't really work like that. You all know that. But you need to go through a bit of a process to help understand and help define your requirements. And that's what we do. So in terms of the Bonsai delivery framework, it's a pretty quick process. Now, it's 8 to 12 weeks roughly. It can be shorter. It can obviously be a lot longer as well. But we try to cover all of these things and do it in quite a prescriptive manner. So things like content planning and strategy, super important. We help you to understand the content that you have. We get you to do a content audit. We make sure that you're bringing over the best content for your intranet with an understanding of who's going to be responsible for that content, who's going to author it, and everything else. Then we do some requirements gathering also, obviously understanding your needs. Although most intranets are the same, they're also very different in terms of how that content is structured, in terms of the requirements that you have. So even though the capabilities might be the same across most organizations, and capabilities in terms of news or events or pages or search, the requirements that people have are going to be a little bit different. And then we spend a lot of time around information architecture. And information architecture is really how you structure your intranet content, both in terms of your navigation, your site structure, and even the metadata to drive things like content targeting and search. So really coming up with a structure that we know is going to resonate and make sense with your end users, because ultimately, if your users can't find the content that they need, it doesn't matter how pretty your intranet is, doesn't matter how fast it is, doesn't matter what capabilities it has, users aren't going to go back to it. So we do a lot of exercises around this. We do some pretty interesting techniques. We do things like tree testing and card sorting and impression testing. And once again, the whole idea is coming up with this intranet structure for you that is going to work from day one, but also is quite resilient. So if your organization changes, if you undergo a merger or an acquisition, for example, if departments change names, it's very easy for you to change that structure as well whenever you need to. And then we do a few more things, but a couple of things to talk about is intranet governance. In my mind, this is absolutely key. Most organizations that we see and we work with, their intranet governance is probably non-existent, honestly, and because of that, their content is out of date, and every site looks a little bit different. So, you know, the intranet homepage might be really nice, but when you go to, for instance, a departmental area, you know, you have someone who's kind of Picasso-esque, so their site has got pink and green sort of colors on there. But governance for us is really important because long-term, we want our clients to have an intranet that's constantly going to be providing value. So you need to have rules and policies and guidelines as well for not only your intranet content, but obviously things like social content and a whole range of other items. We put content authors through training, and we obviously have some kind of authoring and launch capabilities there also. So like I said, when you think about an intranet, much more than just an out-of-the-box install. Now for us, it is nice because we can actually install Bonsai and have it ready for a client in less than a day, but that's not where the work happens. It's all the planning and everything else that goes into that makes an intranet ultimately successful. When you think about Bonsai, we call it Intranet Lego. Now, we call it Lego because the whole idea with Bonsai is we've wanted to make it as flexible as possible. We know organizations are different. We know organizations are going to have different needs. So if I kind of look at this slide here, we, once again, are built on top of SharePoint and Office 365. We have a tool called the Bonzai Provisioner, which allows us to create these intranet sites very quickly and very, very easily. And then we integrate with all of the Office 365 suite for Yammer, for commenting, for instance, for SharePoint Online. We've got integration with Skype for Business and Office 365 videos. But the nice thing as well with Bonsai is you can build on top of it. So if you have your own custom applications or web parts, if you've got third-party apps, you can add those features on, as well as use all of our Bonsai capabilities. And we've got lots of different page templates, lots of different web parts and settings and everything else. So every intranet that we do looks quite different, but we're still using the same capabilities. And the nice thing with Bonsai is everything is ultimately flexible as well. So once again, your intranet can look like whichever way you want, your content can move around. And the nice thing about this as well is this is not just before launch, it can also be after launch as well. So for instance, if you see that your homepage needs to change or you need to create a new section within your intranet also, you can do that really quickly and really easily. And that's something that's really powerful. We wanted to make a tool that's extremely flexible. So once again, maybe your organization changes, maybe you find things that are working or aren't working, and you can instantly respond to all of those needs that you have as a company. So once again, I can go and I can change this and I can move all of these pieces around also. So it's a very, very flexible kind of system. Even though people call us an intranet in a box product, that's not entirely true because it's so flexible. Really the kind of intranet Lego analogy, I think, really makes the most sense. In terms of what you get, we've created really a complete kind of intranet experience, focusing on all of those core things. So things like communication, like news and events and Spotlight, a whole range of tasks and tools as well, whether that's the ability to find people or locations or various sites, a whole range of collaboration tools, a whole range of different tools around content also. So whether that's our document portal feature, we have a really great feature around targeting content, lots of user experience work as well. You'll see that Bonsai looks like nothing like out of the box SharePoint, and a lot of these social and engagement tools that we've seen. So whether that's commenting or liking or sharing, our marketplace is a really popular feature, and the Yammer integration also. And then lots of unique features as well. So these are advanced features that we've really developed over the last probably 5 years since we've been working on Bonsai. So one of the most interesting features and one of the ones we're seeing resonate is the concept of content targeting. So imagine that you can target content to your users based on something that you know about them. Maybe it's their role or their location or their department or really any criteria that you have. Now, the nice thing about this is this allows for something that we call contextual pages. So depending on who I am, my homepage is going to look different. It's going to be personalized and customized to me. So that ability to maybe publish news articles to particular people across different locations, maybe different physical locations or office locations, for instance. That ability maybe to push out training to people from different departments, or maybe have different policies and procedures targeted to people depending on job role, helps cut through a lot of that intranet content and really provide people with a kind of really beautiful, simple experience. And then lots of other features which Thomas is going to talk about. So directories and forms in terms of finding things like people or locations or partners or forms. A really simple editing experience also. We've made this editing experience really easy for users. We know that SharePoint can be a little bit difficult out of the box to go and edit content. We've tried to streamline that process and make it much, much easier. And then a whole range of other features and capabilities also. But I can talk about this all day, but the best thing, I think, is if we actually see it live in action. So, Thomas, why don't I hand it over to you, and you can give these good people a bit of a tour of the Bonsai platform.
Super, thank you, Michael. So let me just switch screen here. I can show you the demo environment. So while that is coming through to you, let me just give you a little bit of background about myself here. I've been working with SharePoint for a really long time, and when I first got my eyes on this Bonsai tool, my jaw dropped to the ground, because a lot of what's in there, as Michael mentioned in terms of the Lego pieces for the intranet, are often being asked when we do a intranet that's tailored to what the customer's looking to have. And so I was just amazed with how well this product was put together. And the fact is that it sits on top of SharePoint. So what I've got for you today here in this demo, and I won't be able to show you everything, but I will definitely give you some of the highlights. This is a 2013 SharePoint on-premise environment, and you're currently looking at Bonsai version 1.6. As Michael mentioned, Bonsai is built on top of SharePoint, and it also works for Office 365. The technology that the software is based on is React technology, which is the client-side software. So what I want to do is start this demo by going kind of top-down to show you what you're looking at. So in this demo environment, we've got some widgets up here, like this weather widget. And we've got a stock ticker up here. And the very common top navigation across the top here, this mega nav. And for those of you who are very familiar with SharePoint, the navigation here is sourced from the term store. Just below the navigation, you'll see the breadcrumb trail. So as you navigate within the site, it will show you where you are contextually from the main landing page. So Michael mentioned this content targeting concept. So what you're actually looking at right now is the intranet view as the people from the New York office would see. So if I merely go up into here and I change my location from New York to Vancouver, now before I save changes, kind of put your eye back here where you can see this is New York, and the employee spotlight here has this lady's picture in it. When I apply, you'll see that the environment will update itself and show me just the information that is pertinent to Vancouver's office. That I hit reply. I just want to hit that. There we go. All right, so that's a lot to do with the personalization that is relatively easy to change. So the scenario here might be that I'm at the Vancouver office. That's my home office. But the nature of my job requires me to often go and work with the people over in New York. I can easily switch over to see what's happening over there, maybe the week before I arrive, just in case there's something that might be of interest to me. The other thing that you probably would have noticed here is this yellow bar, which is an announcement that only applies to the Vancouver office. So it's really nice that this intranet will only show me this announcement because I'm based out of Vancouver, and people who are in New York don't need to be bothered by an IT outage, as an example, where it's not pertinent to them. So down here, we've got the My News, which is personalized to the Vancouver office, likewise with the employee. And we also have the corporate global news. And there are a few important links here that can be sort of like a bookmark concept, where I'll easily be able to find those all the time. Further down, we've got the department news, local news, and there's some videos and marketplace, sort of like a classified buy and sell. So if there's a common place for people who may be looking for different services, opportunities, and products that the internal staff might be just wanting to buy and sell themselves. And then there are my forms, which is something I'll show you in a little bit. Basically, if I track down a particular form, like the time off request, I can easily bookmark it and mark it as my favorite so that it's always here for me. I don't have to go and drill into the site to try to locate that same form at the different site level. And obviously, we've got a widget here for the application side. So any applications are available to me. I can quickly access them through this tile here. And lastly, at the bottom, we've got the footer. So if you can kind of envision this as a wireframe, there are different components on this page, and with the intranet Lego concept, it's fully configurable to what you need. I'm going to just open up this up here in a edit page mode. So Bonsai comes with various layouts. So have you seen SharePoint before? This should look very, very similar to you. So out of the box, we've got different layouts. So if we care to have a different layout for the home page, this is relatively easy to accomplish. And so you can display the elements in any sort of position that you desire to accommodate what's important to you in your intranet. Now, as this topic here with the demo here has to do with under the covers, I do want to just quickly show you that we are indeed in SharePoint. So if I go into site contents here, if you've seen SharePoint before, then this will look very familiar to you. So let me just get back out to the intranet side. The other interesting part of the product here, the Bonsai intranet, it's responsive. So I've got another browser window here that is open to approximate dimensions of your standard tablet. And as you can see in the background, the responsive design will automatically stack all the content that you would see on the desktop view. Now, I'm going to just manipulate this window to get it down to about the size of a smartphone. And as I do that, you notice how the layout is dynamically changing for me. So nobody has to miss out on their desktop experience versus their mobile experience in terms of content or the look and feel. And the Mega Nav menu is still up here. So if you've been on any sort of website before where it's responsive, it's sort of a similar stack layout itself. Okay, so let me tuck that away. A couple of things I do want to cover here in the demo is the publishing concept. So as you see that we've got some news items in here. So let's go ahead and add a new news article. So this is what the news article looks like. We've got our title, we've got the taglines, and we've got the person who posted it. Whoops, I didn't mean to click on that. And then we've got some content down here. And over to the right, there are some actions here that allow me to comment on this post. I can say I like it or not. Or I can also share this with another colleague if it's of interest to them. With the actual news article itself, if it's pertinent for contact, so if this particular post, I want to be able to reach somebody who posts this information, they're listed here for me. And there's also an option here to immediately provide feedback on this particular article, so it'll go right to the parties that are designated to receive the feedback. So this looks all pretty, so why don't we go ahead and create a new article so you can see what that experience looks like. So I've given my new article a name. Okay, so for the content authors, I'm staying within the look and feel and branding of the website, but you can see that this piece here is separated in different fields that really allow me to focus on doing the actual content, because the system will actually generate the layout for me automatically so that everything is streamlined with the same look and feel. So let me just populate some of these required fields here. And I'll have this published immediately. And let's just say that this is a company news. Okay. And I do want this featured. You'll see why in a minute. For the actual page content, I've got a Word document here on the side that I'm just going to copy some content in. Let's paste that in here. And I can do a little bit of formatting. Let me go with that green there. Okay, so I have to admit I'm not a content author here, so this might be a little ugly. So bear with me on that. The other thing I might want to do is insert an image in here, just to make this a little bit more attractive to the eye. So I've got an image here in SharePoint that I'm going to add. And there it is. There's my article right there. The other sections here in this tabular format for the content authors, I can also specify location, department, job roles, and topics of interest. So if you recall, when I went up here earlier, I was able to specify either Vancouver or New York office. So let's just say that this particular article is really intended for the Vancouver office. Not department, location. All right. Over to the related links. So if, say, the article was pertinent to maybe a press release or anything like that, we can definitely populate something here. So as an example here, I'll just put PAC's website. And lastly, we got page options. So earlier I showed you there was a comments, likes, contacts, and feedback here on the right-hand side of the article. If I choose to, I can turn off the feedback so it doesn't show up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here just as an example. So there's some flexibility for the content authors. So if there's an article where maybe you don't care for people to send feedback, or maybe you don't really need people to provide their input on whether they like it or not, you can override the system default to say yes or no in that particular case. So now I've got this new page proposed. Go ahead and save this. And this is what it ends up looking like. So it's a really beautiful layout that complies with everything that we saw earlier in the other article. And here is that related link. I've left these as system default, but you see that there's actually no feedback area down here. Commenting was allowed, so people can put their comments below the article. And then we also have the news, company news that I tagged earlier. So in a nutshell, that's as easy as it takes to put a article together. Back on the home page, remember I mentioned that I'm going to leave it as a featured news, and because of that, we've got this news now showing up here, so that everybody in the Vancouver office is able to see this in the headlines, if you will. The other interesting type of content here are the local events. So let me go ahead and open one of them. So if you've got a corporate event that's being organized, we'll have the standard things like dates, times, and the location. So the authors can actually post some information about the event. If it's not at the office, maybe it's over at the conference center. The map and direction here comes out, and then we also have the ability to put in some comments from different people. So similar to what you saw earlier with the news article, we also have some additional actions that you can perform. For a event itself, right off of this page, you can actually remark whether you want to attend or not, and it shows you how many spots are available. And if I sign up and I want to put this into my calendar, clicking on this will generate the ICS to easily put this event into your own Outlook calendar. So as before, just to showcase the event posting, I'm going to use the exact same sample content I did earlier, but under the context of an event. So as you can see, I've got this tabular layout for me again to post the content. So I'll go ahead and put a tagline there. And if I want to post this on somebody's behalf, I actually have that ability. Put somebody else's name in there. I'm going to go ahead, in this case, use a roll-up image. I'll explain what that is in a second. I'll pick the exact same image that I used earlier. Okay, oh, what happened here? This image is ginormous. It's jutted out of my page. It's jutted out of my page. But I'm going to leave that as is, and you'll see that the system is actually smart enough to do the proper rendition so that things fit in properly. Okay, so I've got some options here that are specific to the actual event, and this is where you can specify the maximum number of seats. So maybe I'll just put down 500 here. You can put in the address. Actually, I'll put in the address below. Here. And maybe we'll say that this event starts tomorrow. Now, if I choose to put a review or expiration date on it, this means that this event will automatically disappear from the website. So I don't have to go in there, remember to take it off after the event is over. Okay. For contact information, let's actually just put a couple people in here. All right. In the event details, this is where I will take that same content I had a moment ago, and I will put that in here. And this time, I'm just going to use this heading here. Unlike what I did before, I'm not going to put the image on the page itself. I'm just going to leave this as textual. And I will just leave those there as blank. We've seen those options before, these last three options in here. So actually, let's go and see what this page looks like when it renders with content I've entered. Oh, a little bit of typo there. Let's try it. And there we have it. This is the same article as before. So when I show you the roll-up image, that's where it's positioned. And you see how it just fits nicely into that space and it's not jutting out to the right. And the 500 count that we allocated for this is right here. The contacts that I've entered, the user's profile are there. And because of the fact that I plugged in an address, the map automatically renders that position for me. So really, really straightforward for the content authors. They just follow the steps from the tabs left to right, and it renders the entire article for you quite nicely. So those are some of the content author experience. So the next part of the demo here, I'd like to just kind of walk you through around some of the really cool features that are available here in the Bonsai intranet. One of the very, very common asks is the employee directory. So let's go into the employee directory. So this is going to basically have everybody that's in the system, and it's only showing me, everything from A to Z. So this is a pretty large listing with multiple pages. The filters up here allow me to choose just the ones that match. So you see Adam Butler shows up here. This is also looking at the first and last name. So I can pick any one of these here to quickly sort and filter the results. Up here in the search, I can also type in the person's name, and it does a type ahead lookup right away and sets up the results to the ones that match. So we've got different people here with the name Chris. I can also search by department. So if I just want to find somebody in HR, type in HR, and there we go. If you've got a switchboard at your office and you got somebody calling you from a particular extension, and you have no idea who that might be, if their extension's in the system, you can easily track that down. So maybe Chris called you and he didn't leave a message, so now you can tell that extension 1356 was Chris. So another really nice part of the search here is the more options. So I mentioned earlier we can search by departments, by typing department name, but I can also do the filter based on department. So now I'm seeing everybody from human resources. And it's similar for the location as well as the role. Over in the contact card, let me just bring up Chris here. Oops. Don't do that. Find out what it is. All right. So on his contact information, not only can I see his name, title, and his department, I also have the direct ability to open up Compose email to be able to contact him through email. If the environment's set up, I can actually call him directly, and I can see that he's out of the Vancouver office. If I want to see more details about Chris, then I can click on this, and this will bring up his my profile or my site, so that I can either figure out more about this person here who may have called me. So that's the employee directory. So let me use the breadcrumb here to get back to the directory. And over the applications, you saw this briefly on the landing page. So I've got a whole roster of all the different applications that are available. And we got one here for IS support. So if I like to be able to contact help desk quite readily and easily, this is where I can mark this as a favorite, and then you'll see it appear here under favorite application. So out of all the different applications that might be available, I could search for them. So if I maybe search for performance, then they'll show it to me right here. And there's also another filter here based on the type of application. So that is a little bit more organized. So in the future, when I need to go and find the IS support application, I can quickly come here and track that down. If you've got multiple departments or multiple offices, you can also look at the site directory here. So these are all the different departments that are available to me. So I'm going to be showing you here shortly the HR landing page. In interest of time, I'm going to move over to the forms area. So with any company, there are going to be a lot of forms floating around. It could be a vacation request form. It could be a reimbursement form or a insurance form or any sort of compliancy form that needs to be populated. So we have a whole bunch of them here. With SharePoint, those of you who are familiar with the search interface, we've got our search box, we've got some results here, and we've got a refiner panel. So quite similar to that concept, except only much, much better. We're able to search for the different forms that are available to me that are in the system. And similar to the other search you saw before, as I type, you'll immediately see those results come through. And just like the favorite application, I can mark one as my favorite. Freeze there. So I see there's this cakes and cookie. This looks really good, so maybe I want to just keep track of that. And by clicking on the star here, you'll see that it'll appear in my favorites list. And at the top of the demo, you would have noticed that I had this timeout request on the landing page under my document. So I'm going to go ahead and do this here. And then it comes on here. So if I want to remove it again, I just click on that star and take it off. So really, really easy to maintain an update. So if I go back to the home page now and run right to the bottom of it, so you can see that my forms now have the two that I've remarked as favorites. The other part of this intranet I want to show here is under department. Each department will have information that they will want to make available to the employees. So HR being one of the more popular ones. So within their homepage, any sort of events, common asks, forms, and things like that are presented immediately here. So it really makes it easy for people to find the content that they need to the expense claim, the vacation request, or just be able to reach somebody to ask a question about benefit. Especially if you're new to the company, you really don't know who's the person to ask. So this really makes it a really easy self-serve environment. And as you can see, the intranet is here event that I set up earlier also shows up here. So it's not just an item that's exclusive to the home page. We can have that in the department page. And it doesn't have to be here if we don't want it to be. With the intranet Lego concept, we've put whatever content that we feel is pertinent to that particular department. Now, the last item I just want to show in here is the FAQs. So really, really handy area to have in terms of content. So you can imagine you're joining a company just brand new. There's a lot of things that you have questions about because you have to figure out who's who or how things work. So this FAQ area here, have the highlights, have the frequently asked questions, and it also gives you the ability to search. So let's just say that I want to be able to find how do I submit a leave policy. So even though I didn't type that word, it's got that word inside the document, so it picks that up. So that is a very quick tour of the capabilities of this system. I know that probably need a little bit more time to do full justice, but hopefully, based on what you've seen in here today, your reaction is the same as my first reaction when I saw this, which is just a fantastic product. And it all sits on top of SharePoint with a lot of really useful tools that enhances not only the look and feel of your intranet, but it also really makes the content authoring experience really, really straightforward. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Brittany.